Okay.
Sir, can you start from the signaling slide? We
Yeah,
couldn't
starting.
hear anything back then either.
Yeah. So one of the areas in which adverse selection is very important is the labor market. Um, See, a worker knows whether he's productive or whether he's not very productive. But employers do not have this information. Okay, so it's the same market for Lemon's used car problem. They face different types of workers, and some of the workers can be Lemon or low productive. Some of the workers can be high productive workers. I'll just close the window. So, given this information asymmetry, how can the employers identify the high productive workers and employ them? This is the problem that we are trying to solve. Now, see, if you have entered into a labor market and you have been working there for 5 years, say 10 years, it's possible to ask for references. Uh, but suppose you are a new entrant. So you just joined this is your first job, and therefore there's no point in asking for references. See, in that case, what the employer can do is undertake a very lengthy test come interview, but this has a cost. He has to hire persons who are going to observe you. He can employ you for a period of time internship. But what will happen if you serve out your period of internship? He trains you, he spends a lot of money training you, and at the end of the period, he finds that you are not productive. So all the training that was given has gone down the drain. So if you forget about costs, the asymmetric problem can be solved. But obviously, this type of cost, I mean, the workers don't undertake such a lengthy test. It's very costly. Secondly, references may not be very reliable. And so the employer has to find out a method by which he can identify who is productive. Now, one such method is a method which has been discussed in fiction, which is an example is Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express. See, in this Orient Express, it is a luxury train which travels from the Middle East, Istanbul, to Paris. And when it is traveling through the Middle East, it gets stuck in the snow. Unfortunately, there's a murder on the train, and it is very clear that someone who is on the train, a passenger, has committed the murder. So Hercule Poirot is also traveling on the train, and he is asked to investigate. Now, the problem that the detective faces is that people, and when he asks questions, people give replies, but there's no way in which he can verify whether they're telling the truth or not. So, for instance, if I ask you that which college are you studying, and if you say that I don't belong to presidency, I know that you are lying because I can check it up on the attendance register. But here, the detective doesn't have any mean to test whether the person is telling the truth or not. This situation is called cheap talk by Farrell and Robin. So, cheap talk refers to a situation when a person, the agent, makes a claim that cannot be substantiated. So, because it cannot be verified, it is called cheap. So the worker is asked that are you a high productive worker or are you a bad worker? And the worker has to give the answer. But there's no way in which the reliability, the truth of his answer can be verified. So in this situation, the question that Farrell and Robin asked was, will the applicant tell the truth? So what do you think?
He will always say he's productive.
Actually, this slide was prepared when I was in IT. So that's why this internship, after your internship. So you can assume that after you've completed your post-graduation, you're recruited by a company who offers you a choice of 2 destinations. So they have a branch in Arctic, South Pole, and they have another branch in the North Pole, Antarctica. So, I mean, given Arctic and Antarctica, I'm sure that you will be indifferent between, other conditions, you'll be indifferent between both the posts. Now, the Arctic assignment is less demanding, while the Antarctica, the North Pole assignment, is more demanding. Okay. And the employer asks that, okay, are you high productive or not? Let's see what you should do. See, at the bottom part of the slide, you have a chart, and the one on the left-hand corner, 3112, is the payoff to the worker. See, the worker is either is productive or unproductive. High means he's productive. If the high productive worker takes up the difficult assignment, he gets a lot of mental pressure. So his payoff is 3. He finds the work challenging and he likes challenging works. So he gets a payoff of 1. The other job is clerical. So it's very monotonical. He just has to enter the data, a data entry job. So if you're very challenging, if you're very talented, you're not going to enjoy just entering the data. So your payoff falls to 1. But suppose you're not productive. In that case, the data entry job is more attractive to you because you can complete it very easily. So you get a payoff of 2. On the other hand, if you accept the difficult task, then the problem is you're not going to do the work properly and you're going to get a lot of scolding. You're going to make a lot of mistakes and your boss is going to give you hell. So if you're high productive, you should say that, okay, I'm high productive. Your payoff will be higher. 3 is more than 1. But if you're low productive, then you should tell the truth, because only if you work in the undemanding job, clerical job, you're going to get a higher payoff. Okay. So given this situation, cheap talk will be extremely reliable. The high productive workers will try to get the demanding job, while the low productive workers will want the clerical jobs. Have you understood this? Or do I need to go through it again?
Yes, sir, understood.
So Spandan was wrong. But is he always wrong? See, consider a different matrix. So now the branches are in Greenland, which is very uncomfortable, and it is in Florida. And Florida is Florida is, as you know, it has a lot of beaches and it's a pretty fun place to be in. Now the problem is a conflict emerges. The high productive worker is going to ask for the demanding job. So his payoff is the same, 3 and 1. And obviously, it is better for him to try and angle for the demanding job. But what about the low productive worker? If he goes to Greenland, which is the easy option, clerical job, then he gets a payoff of 2. Now, however, even if he accepts the difficult task, he's going to get a lot of scolding, but he can also enjoy himself after office hours. So his payoff is 3. Sorry, just one. Okay. So the problem here is both the high productive workers and the low productive workers will want the demanding job, but for different reasons. The productive worker will want the demanding job because it is challenging for him. The low productive worker will want the demanding job because the posting is very comfortable. He will not like the work, but he can get compensation in other ways. So now in this case situation, he will simply assume both high and low, all types of workers are going to claim that they are productive workers. So is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Sir, right
Can
hand
you
corner এ
explain this?
2114 টা কি?
হ্যাঁ, অর্ঘ্য তুমি বলছিলে কিছু?
স্যার ওই কর্নারে 2114 ওগুলো কি স্যার?
আচ্ছা,
মেট্রিক
211 টা হচ্ছে that is the employer's profit.
আচ্ছা।
এইখানটা একটু দেখে নাও, আগেরটা দেখে নাও। So if the employer matches up the workers properly, he is going to get high payoffs, 2 and 4. But if he doesn't match up properly, then his payoff will be less, 1 and 1.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Now what happens is in this situation, the firm knows that, well, all workers cannot be high productive. So one of them is lying. But who is lying? There's no way of finding it out. So what he's going to do is the firm will generally assume, well, in this case, there are just 2 workers. So he's going to assume that there's a 50% chance that the worker is productive, 50% chance that he's not a good worker. And so when he's paying the wage, what he will do is instead of paying the productive worker a higher wage, the clerical worker a lower wage, what he's going to do is he's going to take an average of the 2 wages. So half into WH, show it to you. So the high productive worker will get a wage of WH if he can be identified, and the unproductive worker will get a lower wage of WH, WL. And obviously WH is greater than WL. So if cheap talk is reliable, the first case, then H is paid WH. H is posted in the demanding job and he's given a wage of WH. And L is posted in the clerical job and he's given WL. But if cheap talk is not reliable, that is the second case, then he makes an assumption that theta proportion of the labor force is productive and therefore 1 minus the proportion of the labor force of the workers is unproductive. And so what he's going to do is pay a wages of theta WH 1 minus, sorry, this will be theta WL. Okay. And it's obvious that the relation between the three wages is like this. So who benefits from this situation?
Unproductive
The
worker.
unproductive person.
And the productive worker is basically subsidizing the unproductive worker. So H is subsidizing L. Actually, this type of equilibrium is called pooling equilibrium. So we can have two types of equilibrium. One is pooling and one is separating. Separating equilibrium means that the employer can distinguish between H and L workers and pay them the wage that they should get according to their marginal productivity. So H is paid WH and L is paid WL. In pooling equilibrium, the employer cannot distinguish between H and L, and all of them will get a common wage, which is theta WH plus 1 minus theta WL. 1 is the equation number. So, do you need to copy this or may I move to the next slide?
Excuse me.
May I move to the next slide? Or do you have
Sir.
any questions for more time?
One doubt, sir.
Bolo. Who is it?
In the W part, W is equal to theta WH. That one is the W expected wage or same wage?
No, that is the common wage which is paid to all the workers.
Okay, sir.
পরের স্লাইডে যাব?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now in this situation, Spence wrote a very important book in 1974 called Market Signaling, in which he argued that productive workers can signal that they are really productive. So the basis, his premise is that signaling is costly and therefore only a person who gets a higher wage will be able to signal. Now, one very important signaling device is education. So there are two groups of workers, H and L, and we assume that education is costly, the cost is C, and further it is difficult. So the L workers even if they are prepared to invest an amount of C, they are not going to pass the course. Following Stiglitz, we are going to make the assumption, which is very popular among students, that education is useless. Two types of equilibrium are possible in this situation, depending, as you will see, it depends upon the parameters in the model. One is separating equilibrium. In separating equilibrium, H invests in education, and what the employer does is, he simply asks the person who comes to him that, do you have this degree? And if the person has the degree, he's obviously a productive worker. And so that person is employed in a suitable job and paid a wage of WH. If the person doesn't have the degree, then obviously he's L and he's paid a wage of WL. So this is separating equilibrium. The two groups of workers are separated at equilibrium. It is also possible that we have pooling equilibrium. When will pooling equilibrium occur? When H does not find it profitable to educate himself. So he doesn't go to college, get the degree, and so the employer cannot distinguish between H and L workers. So he treats all of them similarly and he pays them an average wage of W. Is it clear? Or do you have any doubts?
Sir, can you please show the previous slide? Yes, sir, done.
Now, if you're talking about a separating equilibrium, let's start with the separating equilibrium. See, the low ability workers do not have any choice. If they enter the college, they are not going to pass, and they know it. So in this situation, will they try to go for educate themselves? Will they apply to the degree courses?
No, sir.
Answer is no.
No.
You know that you are not going to pass. And so they will have to be happy with WL. Right? This is clear? Now, high ability workers, H, they have a choice. They can either educate themselves. In that case, the benefit is they get the higher wage, WH, but they also have to invest at a cost of C. So it's something like going to IIT. If you go into IIT, you're going to be placed in a very good job and get WH, but the cost of IIT education is also pretty expensive, and it's, let us say, it's given by C. You have to take a bank loan and so on. So if you educate yourself, then your net benefit is WH minus C. Your gross benefit is WH and your cost is C. The alternative is you don't educate yourself and therefore you're classified as a low ability worker. So you're going to get WL. But the good thing is, it's very small grace that you don't have to spend on education. Okay. Now, when are you going to educate yourself in this situation?
When WH is greater than C.
Not
WH minus C
WH
will be greater than WL.
is WH minus C greater than WL.
exactly. So he's going to seek education if the benefits from education, net benefits from education, WH minus C is greater than WL. We can just rearrange the terms and write it as WH minus WL is greater than C. So if you are classifying yourself as a high productive workers, WH minus WL is the increase in wages. And this increase in wages should be greater than the increase in costs. So let us assume that C is 15,000 and the wages WH is 40,000 and WL is 20,000. Okay. So in this case, WH is 40,000, WL is 20,000. So if he's able to prove that he's a high productive worker, his wages are going to increase by 20,000. But in order to establish his claim, his cost is how much? 15,000. So we can see that WH minus WL in this case is greater than C. So obviously, education helps him to get higher wages. Now let us come to the pooling equilibrium, when the employer cannot distinguish between H and L. So all workers are paid a wages of W, which is equal to theta WH plus 1 minus theta WL. See, low productive workers again don't have any choice. If they try to go for IIT, they are not going to pass out, but they will simply incur a loss of C. High productive workers can get an education of WA. If they get education, they get WH minus C. And if they don't educate themselves, then the wages is W. So now the condition is they will not be educated if WH minus C is less than W. Or again, we rearrange the terms. WH minus W is less than C. Okay. So over here we can see that if we what is W? Just let us check over here. W, remember theta is half. I've said it over here. Theta is equal to 0.5. So this is 40,000 plus half of WL is 20,000. So 30,000. 30,000. So how much is his gain? He's going to gain by 10,000. But the problem is, in order to gain 10,000, he has to spend 15,000 on education. So implies that education does not give him net benefit. His wages goes up, but the cost is more. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what we have is, depending, as you will see, depending on the parameter, but just for that, let me just suppose theta is point, suppose theta is 1/4. No, sorry. Let us say, just 1 minute. Suppose theta is, suppose theta is 3/4. Okay. Can you please do the calculation again? What is W then?
35,000.
35,000. So WH minus W is 5,000. And what is his cost? It is 15,000. So the decision is same. But now try for 1/4. Theta is 1/4. What is W?
20,000.
25,000.
This is 3/4, so 15,000. And this is 10,000. কত হচ্ছে? 25 হচ্ছে তো।
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, what is WH minus W? It is exactly 15,000. So now he's indifferent between educating himself or not. Okay. So if you lower the probability even further, make it, let us say 1/5, something like that, you will see that the condition that we have written over here, condition 3, is violated. So the high productive workers will try to go for education. So obviously, what type of solution will prevail? It depends upon whether what is the value of theta, what is WH, what is WL, what is the cost of education, and so on. So depending on the parameters, it is possible that you have separating equilibrium. It is also possible that you just have pooling equilibrium. Okay. So in that case, the equilibrium is unique. Unfortunately, it is also possible, as you will see, both pooling and separating equilibrium can simultaneously hold. In other words, what we are seeing is we have got two conditions over here. One is WH minus WL is greater than C. And over here, the condition is WH minus W is less than C. Okay. So what we will see is this condition holds, but not so in this case, you are going to have only separating equilibrium. In this case, you have only pooling equilibrium. And the third case is So this is a situation where we have multiple equilibria. Okay. So here equilibrium is unique. You either have separating equilibrium or you have pooling equilibrium. But if both conditions are simultaneously satisfied, then you can have multiple equilibrium. You have equilibria. Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Just check this. C is 15,000, WH is 40,000, WL is 20,000. For what value of theta is a pooling equilibrium possible? So you've already found it out. No. How do we find this out? When is the pooling equilibrium possible? If
WH minus W equals C.
No, not W, WL. Oh, sorry, this is a pooling equilibrium, right?
Yes, sir.
এটাই গন্ডগোল, পুরোটাই চলে যাবে। If you make one mistake, everything is gone. আচ্ছা। This implies pooling equilibrium. So what we do is we set this. Okay. Now what is W? W is theta 40,000 1 minus theta 20,000. So this is 20,000 theta plus 20,000, right? So we can, WH is 40,000. I'm just writing it as 40, okay? And this is 20 theta plus 20 equal to C. So this will be 20 and C is 15. So 20 theta by 5 or theta is equal to 1/4. Okay. So for any value of theta greater than 1/4, the pooling equilibrium will hold. Okay. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So this is how we get it. And
Sir, I have a doubt, sir. Sir, for the part where you said that only separating equilibrium will be hold, how once can we again show that case where we can have only separating equilibrium?
এইটা
As only separating equilibrium এর কেসটা যেখানে ইউনিক সেপারেটিং ইকুইলিব্রিয়াম
ও এটা কি ছিল? সরি, আমি খেয়াল করি। এটা তো পুলিং ছিল না কি ছিল? হ্যাঁ, দিস ইজ পুলিং।
ইয়েস স্যার, মানে আমরা যে ফর্মটা লিখি সেটার মধ্যে তো আমরা বলি যে WH is greater than W is greater than WL। তো যদি একটা সেপারেটিং ইকুইলিব্রিয়াম হয় সেটা তো সবসময় পুলিং হবেই। তো ওই জিনিসটা নিয়ে একটু ডাউট ছিল।
না, ইউ উইল সি। যেটা হচ্ছে ঠিক আছে?
Yes, sir. মানে
আচ্ছা, এখন what is the relation? We know this.
yes, sir.
So this is a large gap and this is a small gap. Sorry, এটা WL হবে না, W. ঠিক আছে?
Yes, sir.
আচ্ছা, since it is large, let us say C is medium. This is possible because it is large. Large is greater than medium. But this is also possible.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Got it.
It will become clearer. I mean, the others who haven't followed it, it's going to be clear in this diagram. Now, let me go back a little bit. See, C is, see, what I did was, I had solved the problem using algebra. Okay. The question that I'm asking is, when is pooling equilibrium possible? Pooling equilibrium, the condition for pooling equilibrium is WH minus W is less than C. Now, what is W? W is theta WH 1 minus theta WL. So substitute W in this condition. We get WH minus theta WH minus 1 minus theta L less than C. So we have got over here 1 minus theta WH WL less than C. Okay. Now for convenience, we hold it equal to. Okay. We want to find the point of indifference. So what is theta? Theta is simply 1 minus which is this condition at theta equal to 1 minus C by WH minus WL, this condition, you're indifferent. And if theta is greater than this condition, greater than this value, you're going to have a pooling equilibrium. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Is this clear, everyone? Or do I
Yes.
need to?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So I've got one condition. When is a pooling equilibrium possible? So if I know the value of theta, I know C, WH, and WL. I simply have to find out the value of C, WH, and WL, this right hand side part, and check, compare against with theta. Okay, so look at this diagram. This is from Perloff. Okay, first copy it, or let me first explain it, and then I'll give you time. If you want, you can copy it. See, in this equation, this line indicates the combination where theta is equal to 1 minus C WH minus WL. Okay, so this line. So this is the condition for pooling equilibrium. Understood? Over here, when do we have separating equilibrium? We have separating equilibrium when WH minus WL is greater than C, or what we can say is this line is the line where you are indifferent between them. Okay, so this is the line which indicates above this line you are going to have pooling equilibrium, and below the line at any point you're going to have separating equilibrium. Okay, this is the line for pooling equilibrium. Above this line, any point above this line, you're going to have pooling equilibrium. Below the line, you're going to have separating equilibrium. So I'll just show this again. Just let me finish the drawing, then I'll explain. So here, WH minus WL is equal to C. Okay. Any point above this line, you will have pooling equilibrium. And any point below this, you have separating equilibrium. And here you're indifferent. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Over here, this is the condition theta is equal to 1 minus C WH minus WL. So above this, any point above this, you have pooling equilibrium. And below this, you have separating equilibrium. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Now, let us bring the two diagrams together. Okay, ignore the orange line. Forget about the orange line. This part is clear? Achha, now, this orange line was so what I'm doing is I'm using the first diagram. This one. Sorry, this one. I'm using this. So above the orange line, what type of equilibrium do we have?
Pooling equilibrium.
Pooling. And below the orange line?
Separating.
Separating.
Okay. Over here, both conditions are satisfied. This one is satisfied and this one is also satisfied. So we are going to have only separating equilibrium over here. So this is unique separating equilibrium. Here, this condition is satisfied for pooling equilibrium. Simultaneously, the blue condition, this one, this is also satisfied. So this is also, here also both conditions are satisfied. Or rather, both conditions are violated and we have a unique pooling equilibrium. Right? In this zone, this condition doesn't hold. So, sorry. Here, however, we can see that this condition holds, but this doesn't. So, we need precise information on the parameters. Over here, we have the possibility of a multiple equilibrium. We can either have separating or pooling equilibrium. Is it clear?
Yes,
I'll
sir.
go to the Pearl of diagram and then you can check. ঠিক আছে? So this is the Pearl of diagram. And now you also have comments. Why is the condition? Why are the condition? Why do the conditions not hold? At the top of the table, we see the vertical axis is the cost of education. And the right hand and the horizontal axis is theta, the share of high ability workers. So given a value of C as theta, if theta is very high, there's not much point in going for a separating equilibrium. See, because theta is very high, most of the workers are high productive workers. the W that is being paid in a pooling equilibrium. Just one second. Remember, W is WH 1 minus theta WL. See, if theta is close to 1, then what will be the gap between this gap? This gap will be very small. You're not really gaining by, therefore, you're not really gaining by investing in education. Even if you're not educated, you're going to incur a loss, but the loss will be minor. On the other hand, if the cost of education is very high, then it's not very desirable. I mean, you have to spend a lot, and unless the wage premium is very high, there's no point in investing a lot. On the other hand, if the cost of education is low, while theta is also low, so there are very few persons who are high productive, so the average wage that is paid is also comes down. So you can see it should be obvious that if theta, as theta comes down, W also comes down. On the other hand, as theta increases, W also increases. If you just look into the value of theta, of W, it should be clear to you. So if theta is very low, W is also very low. In that case, if you invest in education, you get your wage hike is pretty high. Okay. So do you want to copy this diagram? Will I wait?
Sir,
Huh?
sir, can you explain why if theta is low, W is low? That part.
Why? Theta,
When theta and W are low, that part.
now we know that theta lies between 0 and 1, right? And if assume that there are both types of workers, theta will be between 0 and 1, strictly between 0 and 1, right? This is clear?
Yes, sir.
Take the case theta tends to 1, right? Just substitute this into the equation. 1 into WH, 1 minus theta, which is 1, WL. So this tends to WH, right? So if theta tends to 1, W tends to WH.
Understood, sir.
আর উল্টো করে তুমি দেখাতে পারবে 0 ধরে. Also think of it logically. See, if most of the workers are high productive, what will be the average wage? That should also be very high.
Yes.
But if most of the workers are very lazy, unproductive, then what is the average wage that you pay? It's going to be very low, close to WL. So logically also, and also by using limits, it's clear that if theta increases, then W is going to go up, theta falls, W is going to fall. ঠিক আছে? So any questions? Then I'll go to the next part. So this is basically the summing up. If there are very few productive workers, which means that theta is very low, then only separating equilibrium is possible. Basically what I've been saying so far. If theta is very low, then W is also going to fall, and productive workers will therefore want to signal, and therefore they will go for education. Okay. So now, one important fact, suppose we are over here in this zone. See, over here it's very clear what is going to happen. Here also it's very clear what is going to happen. We have separating equilibrium. No one is going to offer pooling. Here, pooling will occur. No one is going to educate themselves. But here, both types of equilibrium are possible. However, once the economy gets into equilibrium, whatever the equilibrium is, no one has the incentive to defect from this equilibrium. In other words, the equilibrium that occurs in this zone will be a Nash equilibrium. No individual worker will have the incentive to defect unilaterally. See this part. Between the horizontal line and the vertical line, the slope line, either equilibrium is possible, but no one individually will want to deviate from the equilibrium that results. So if you have pooling equilibrium, no one is going to educate himself. Low productive workers cannot. Even high productive workers do not have an incentive to unilaterally defect. On the other hand, if you have separating equilibrium, then no high productive worker will decide that, okay, I don't want to invest in education. All of them will invest in education. Okay, so that is why I'm saying it is a Nash equilibrium. So in this zone, the government can ensure through appropriate action that one of these two equilibrium holds. So what they can do is they can ban schooling, and in that case they are going to attain. If you ban schooling, so no one can educate themselves, then what is the only equilibrium possible? Pooling equilibrium. On the other hand, they can also decide that, okay, we are going to subsidize education. So in that case, people will, the age workers will want to encourage, will want to signal that they are productive, and therefore separating equilibrium will occur. As soon as some workers start signaling, all the workers will also follow through. Because if you don't, you're going to get either W, you're going to get not W, but you're going to get WL. Is this point clear? Because then the next point is very critical. Do you understand the last? Why, if some workers start signaling, why the others will educate themselves?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now the efficiency of signaling. See, schooling is costly and does not provide any skill augmentation. That is the starting assumption made by Stiglitz. The only benefit that it gives is the productive workers, the age, they get a higher wage. So instead of all the people getting W, some workers, the productive workers, get a higher wage of WH, while the unproductive workers get a wage of WL. But apart from that, profit, employment, output, everything is the same. Now consider point Y over here. This is point Y. Okay. You can just do the sum and check. Pooling is better than separating equilibrium. Why? Because in pooling, everyone gets an average wage of 30,000. Okay. But if you go for a separating equilibrium, then the low productive workers get 20,000. What will be the wage to the high productive workers? 40 minus 50, which is 25,000. Okay. So obviously, pooling is better. However, suppose all the H workers are signaling. Okay. So in your class, everyone has gone for education. Will anyone drop out and say that, look, we don't want to educate ourselves? If you do so, if someone stops, if everyone is signaling, then you're getting 25,000. If you don't signal, your wage falls to 20,000. You don't get 30,000, you get 20,000. Because the absence of a degree means that you are not H, you are L. Is this clear? So in this situation, all the H workers will either signal, no one unilaterally will stop signaling. So what happens is, this is not a very desirable situation, because an ideal situation would be none of them educate themselves, so you have a pooling equilibrium of 30,000. Right? So the government is going to go for a high productive workers will say that, look, let us go for a ban in schooling. The low productive workers are also gaining, because instead of getting 20,000, they're getting 30,000. On the other hand,
Can you go to the previous slide?
another. Sorry, did you say something?
Yes, sir. Can you please go to the previous one? So this one, just a second.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. So you can move to the next slide.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Finished?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So this is point Z, where you have separating equilibrium. In this situation, the productive workers are getting 35,000. Okay, while the pooling wage is 30,000. The cost of education is much lower, so they are getting, the cost of education is 5,000, so they are getting WH minus C is 35,000. On the other hand, if they go for do not educate themselves, you have pooling wage, which will be 30,000. In this case, what happens is, planning is to raise efficiency. The low productive workers will always prefer education to be better. But in the previous case, we saw even the H workers want education to be better. They don't want signaling. Signaling is actually reducing the wages. But here we see that signaling is increasing the wages. So any ban on signaling will be strongly opposed by the H work. Further, Stiglitz's assumption that education doesn't improve skills, that is somewhat a very strong assumption. I'm sure that none of us faculty members would like this assumption to be true. In fact, Schulz has shown that education leads to human capital formation, increases productivity, and so the total output of the economy is also going to increase. So because of all these reasons, a ban on education on signaling may not be desired. Okay. So I'll stop at this point. But do you have any questions?
স্যার স্যার ওই এফিসিয়েন্সি অফ সিগন্যালিং এর ওই স্লাইডটা একবার জানতেন। হ্যাঁ স্যার ওই এফিসিয়েন্সিতে স্যার ওই প্রাইভেট রিটার্নস টু সিগন্যালিংটা ওই পয়েন্টটা একবার বলবেন। প্রাইভেট রিটার্নস টু সিগন্যালিং গ্রেটার দ্যান সোশ্যাল রিটার্ন।
What is your private returns to education? Your private returns to education is, you're getting more wages, del W. Ever what is del W? WH minus WL. But your cost is minus C. So this is your private returns to education. Is this part clear? A part?
Yes, sir.
Achha. Left hand side, social return. What is the social return? The social benefit is either profit is going up or output is going up or employment is increasing. Okay, that can be social gain. But we can see that all of them are remaining the same. Right? So the gross social return is 0. And what is the net social return? It is gross minus W, or 0 minus W equal to minus W. What is the return to society? How can society benefit? If profit goes up, output goes up, or employment goes up. That is the benefit to society. But none of it is happening. But society has to bear the cost in terms of education. Is it clear?
Yes, thank you.
So I have finished model adverse selection, and the next topic is moral hazard. So I've already defined moral hazard, but what I want to do is in the next class, I want to discuss moral hazard, and I want to discuss a particular model that how we can see moral hazard. I'll just briefly tell you what is moral hazard. See, adverse selection is how can I identify whether a person is a good worker or a bad worker. Now, suppose somehow I've identified a person and I've engaged him. Now the question is that, okay, the person is a good worker, but if I cannot monitor him, how can I ensure that he does the work properly? Even a good worker will not do the work properly. He can just, see, suppose I hire the top student in class. See, what he can do is, he will come to my office and instead of working on my job, কি একটা টার্ম আছে না, এটাকে কি বলা হয়, moonshine না কি একটা বলা হয়, he can actually do the work for another company. So I'm not benefiting, But the worker, even if he's high productive, is getting a lot of wages. So this is a principal agent problem. So how can I ensure that even if I hire an effective person, he's going to do the work properly? This is the problem of moral hazard. And the contract has to be designed in such a way that he's going to accept the contract, and second, he's going to do the work properly. So this is something that I'll have to do in the next class. এখন তোমাদের তো 25 তারিখের আগে আমি করাতে পারবো না। Can you do another online class, please?
So when?
When?
Yes, sir. So we have an exam on the 15th. So like I think over the weekend people will be busy studying for that.
Uh, I can take it on Saturday at earlier. কালকে আমি বেরোবো না বাড়ি থেকে, so I can do it at 5 o'clock. Or তোমাদের সোমবারে কিরকম রুটিন, মানে কখন ক্লাস শেষ হচ্ছে?
So Monday we only have the exam then, like because everyone else is done with their syllabus. We'll have the exam and I think GC ma'am's class probably from 10:30, and I guess it's going to be a 1.5 hour exam. So after that we are free.
You're free as a bird. Okay. If you're free as a bird, then will the birdies come to the nest on Monday? And if
So we have to, sir. We have the exam.
no, after the exam, I mean,
Um,
prepared for an online class on Monday.
sir, like,
ইয়েস স্যার 5টা থেকে হলে হবে স্যার।
এক মিনিট দাঁড়াও। আর
so 5টা থেকে হলে হবে না, ওটা বাড়ি যেতে হয় তো লোকেদের।
হ্যাঁ, তোমাদের টিউসডেতে কি অবস্থা?
So Tuesday we only have GE class and MD ma'am's class, but MD ma'am probably won't
না,
be
সেটা
able
তো
to take
টিফিনের
on
পরে,
Tuesday.
রিসেসের পরে।
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
From 11:40 to 1:20.
So
We have the GE
GE.
classes.
ও, ওই সময়টা জিই আছে 11:40 থেকে।
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
সোমবার অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমার 6টার সময় একটা কাজ আছে। ক্যান ইউ মিট অ্যাট 6:30?
স্যার মানে ইভিনিং এর ওই টাইমটাতে ক্লাসেস থাকে অ্যাকচুয়ালি, তো
আচ্ছা।
এটা
So can you do it right after, like, say, the afternoon, like right after classes, so we can attend the class from college itself and then go home maybe?
I can do that. না, এক মিনিট, একদম রাইট আফটার ক্লাস মানে তোমরা তাহলে তোমরা কটায় ফ্রি হবে?
So as soon as the exam ends, so if we say like 12 o'clock.
আচ্ছা, so 12 to 1. In that case, I can hold it offline. একটু থেকে গেলে offline will be faster.
Yes, offline will work then.
করে না, কারণ 18 থেকে 25 আমরা থাকবো না তো। I don't want to মানে hurry the course.
Okay, sir. So like from 12 o'clock then?
হ্যাঁ, তোমার ক্লাস যদি আগে পরীক্ষা শেষ হয়ে যায় আগে করে নেবো।
Okay, sir.
ঠিক আছে?
ওকে স্যার।
Yes.
হ্যাঁ, তাহলে ক্লাস শেষ হয়ে গেলে তোমরা আমাকে একটু জানিয়ে দিও।
Okay, sir.
And I'll take the class preferably in room 21. Acha, Aradhana, you were having some problem. I mean, your results were not matching.
Yes, I sent it for rechecking. Sir, G, not a major, sir.
Yes?
Sir, G, sir, not a major. Sir, third sem.
No. What I'm saying is that your results were not matching. Your regression results were not matching.
Oh, sir. Okay. So, sir, no, sir. That was actually, I was facing some issue with the graphics thing on Stata. So, sir, I had to reinstall Stata again, and now it's fixed, sir.
Okay. What version of Stata are you using?
Sir, 14.2.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we'll meet on Monday. Okay. Bye then. Acha, wait a minute. I have to take your roll call. Acha, Megha Chandrima? Absent. Spandan? Present. Ornisha?
Present, sir.
Acha, Rito Bhash?
Present, sir.
Prantika?
Present, sir.
Dia? Absent.
Present, sir.
Oh, present. Acha, Ayantika? Absent. Nijhar? Present. Tista?
Yes, sir.
Shomadip? Acha, Jisan? Protiti?
Present, sir.
Orgho present, Gunjan present, Aradhana present, Shannay,
Present, sir.
Ognija present, Bhavika,
Present, sir. Bhavika, present, sir.
Jannat, Acha, Arjo present, Somadip,
Yes, sir.
Sarthak, Ritika, Acha, Dia,
Yes, sir.
Dia present, Acha, Nakhatro,
Yes, sir.
Acha,
Present, sir.
Shubhajit,
Yes, sir.
Acha, Sneha,
Present, sir.
Ritimay,
Present, sir.
Ivan,
Present, sir.
Sweta,
Present, sir.
Vidisha,
Present, sir.
Oishwalina, absent. Okay, thank you. You may leave, please.
Thank you, sir.